So hopefully you've gotten your workbook and all of your downloadable assets so we can jump right in. My question for you is, are you a victim of financial abuse? Well, today we're going to examine all the ways an abuser can manipulate you and try to control you financially, which is considered domestic abuse. We're also going to view all the ways you can combat it and try to mitigate the damage that they're trying to do to you. So let's just dive right into it, okay? My first question is, are you restricted access to money? If that's the case, in your household, you have no access, you have no decision making, your abuser is controlling everything, that is absolutely a form of financial abuse. Do they monitor your spending? Basically put you on an allowance. They dictate what you can spend regardless if it's your paycheck or not. Do they force you into feeling like you are dependent on them? That is a way of controlling you, because if you have to depend on them for money and any means to take care of yourself, that is a controlling, manipulating way an abuser can keep you exactly where they want you. And that is not having say whether you can come or you can go. Do they force you into debt? That is another abusing tactic where they actually have you borrow money, lend them money, apply for credit by saying they can't qualify or they're maxed out. So can you please help them with their business? This happened to me. And I was constantly borrowing money, opening up credit cards, lending it to my abuser so he could so-called start a business when all he was doing was spending the money carelessly, and I ended up with a lot of debt. Are they stealing or diverting funds? That is something that is very hard to detect, because basically it would be them hiding assets from you. So if they appear to be living above their means and you're struggling, you're on this small, minute an allowance, but they seem to be living high on the hog, going out to dinner, playing golf all the time, and you're thinking to yourself, there is no way we could afford these things. Chances are they are diverting funds from your joint household funds into an account in their name only. My advice to you there is keep your eye open for mail that comes in from different banks that maybe you haven't heard of. You may not be able to open their mail without getting into trouble, but you can absolutely write down the name of the bank, because if you go through a divorce, you're going to need that, because they can actually subpoena records from the bank. Do they sabotage your employment or your education? This is another form of abuse that many people don't know about. This keeps you down. If you're trying to better your education so you can get a better job, a higher paying job, and they start sabotaging that, that is a way to keep you dependent on them. They don't want you getting independent. They don't want you to earn more money. If they sabotage your employment because they've asked you not to work, they don't trust you, they may start creating issues where you can't get to work, causing your car to break down, faking illness, calling you saying an emergency's come through. They could absolutely put you in jeopardy of losing your job, and that's what they want. They don't want you to have any type of independence involving money, because that means you can absolutely make a choice to leave. They're trying to remove that from you. Do they isolate you? That is a form of abuse all the way around. And when it relates to finances, it's because they're not allowing you money to visit your relatives, to go out with your friends, to possibly go to do something, a girls' weekend. So they're withholding money to keep you home, isolated and away from people that can actually have influence over you. So if you think about it, if they keep saying no to girls' weekends or family get-togethers or family events, there's a reason for that. They don't want you around people that can actually influence you into making a decision to possibly leaving them. Do they sabotage your credit? Do they purposely ask you to open credit, possibly put them as an authorized user, and then abuse that? Or do they withhold money and not pay your credit bills? So they've borrowed money against you, or they've had you go and apply for credit, knowing you could not afford to pay back that debt because they promised you that they would pay it, but then they don't pay it. So you are stuck with debt that you can no longer pay. It wasn't for your good, it was for them. That happened to me. Mine actually talked me into getting an auto loan for him because he said his business would pay the car payment. I told him I could not personally afford to pay that car payment, and he promised me that his business would pay it and that he would be able to write it off as a business expense. He never made one payment. I had to borrow money to make those payments until I was finally able to sell that car. Don't believe them, because they will destroy your credit if they can, because if you can't borrow money when you need it, it keeps you right where they want you, controlled and isolated. Do they make all the decisions about financial investing, or where to put your assets, or what accounts to deposit them in, and you have absolutely no decision making? That is a serious financial abuse situation, especially if you're married to them, because they can be diverting funds or investing funds and letting you believe it's for the good of your future, that they're doing it for you, they're doing it for the marriage, for the family, when they're absolutely putting the money in individual accounts and you have no access to it. That right there is something that gets most people in trouble when they're going through a divorce, because you don't have any idea where the money went. Writing things down, anything suspicious, if you sit down with your partner and you want to go through the bills and you want to know what is owed, what you have in savings, what you have in checking, and they start making excuses or they tell you it's none of your business, you need to be very concerned, because they are absolutely withholding information from you, and that is not a good situation for you to find yourself into. Now we're going to go through ways of how to combat these types of abusive situations regarding money. Educating yourself on what financial abuse is the first step, and you are taking it right now. You are educating yourself on what financial abuse looks like and how you can combat it. Building financial awareness is keeping track of your financial situation. There are so many people that I talk to, when I ask them specific questions about where do you bank, what do you owe, what is your credit card debt, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. My husband takes care of all that, my wife takes care of all that. That means they're keeping you in the dark. Getting out of financial abuse means you have to get out of the dark. This is your business. It is your business. So taking note of where the debts are, where the bank accounts are, who owes what to who, is something that is your business, and that's something you need to keep inventory of. And you may have to be very diligent on how you do it. What comes in the mail, whether or not you have access to online banking. A lot of abusive partners will not give their other partner access. If you are on a joint account and you don't have access to online banking, go to the bank. Because if you're on that account, the bank will have to give you the statements from that account. That is a way you can keep track of what's going in and what's going out, especially if you're considering getting a divorce. You need to know what is going on in your financial household. If you can, maintain separate accounts, separate credit and separate accounts. This might be a little tricky, but if you are working and your paycheck is going into an account that your abuser controls, that is the biggest probably mistake we all have made. So this is what you need to do. You need to go and open up your own personal account, I suggest at a different bank, and have your paycheck transferred into that account that you own. Your abuser is going to get upset about it, okay? But if they get upset, you should be concerned, because that means they don't want you to have financial independence. They don't want you to have control of money, because that means you can make your own decisions. But you can always tell them, hey, I don't have a problem paying my share of the bills, but I want to control my paycheck. I will write you a check for my share of the bills, but I am no longer going to give you 100% control of my paycheck. That is how you can start building up a emergency account if you are planning on leaving. But you have to take control of money that's yours. Or go to the bank and get the bank statements and find out if you actually are on the account. If they've told you you're joining an account but they won't give you the information and you go to the bank will tell you whether or not you're on that account or not. At least you'll know where the banking is taking place. But you will also know that you're not on the account. That's stuff you need to write down. Your attorney will need this information from you, I promise. Monitor your credit. We're going to get into this in a couple series down. We'll actually cover credit fraud, credit theft, and rebuilding your credit. But monitoring your credit is definitely a way for you to know if any debts are being opened in your name. So I suggest you download Credit Karma. It's free. If you haven't even looked at your own credit report, you need to. We'll get into how to do that in the next video. But monitoring your credit will definitely keep you abreast of any debts being opened without your knowledge, because who else would be doing it except for your abusive partner? And you don't want to be left with no money and a bunch of debts. Building an emergency fund is something we're also going to get into. Having your paycheck going to your own account is definitely a way to do that. We'll go into a lot more details, but building that reserve account is so important, because if you want to leave, you want to be able to have the means to do so. So if you have to start moving little bits of money into a separate account or stashing it at home by taking out cash at the grocery store or buying gift cards at the grocery store, anything that will let you stash money, like I said, we'll get into more details in the next videos, but that is a way to build up an emergency account so you are not held hostage or prisoner in your own home. Definitely create a safety plan. And when I say that, if you are planning on leaving, then you have got to create a plan, and you've got to think about that plan. You've got to think about an exit strategy. You've got to think about a date that you want to leave and what you have to do between now and then to do whatever you need to do to be financially able to make that exit. We will, in your package, you do have an exit strategy. That's in there with all kinds of critical steps that you need to take if you're planning on leaving, how to prepare yourself. A safety plan is good for anyone. Even if you're not ready to quite make the leap to leave, you could be discarded at any second. Narcs get new supplies all the time, and the last thing you want is for your abuser to come home and tell you, I don't love you anymore, I want a divorce, or I don't want to live with you anymore, get out, and you have no idea what's going on. You've not planned for this. You've not created any type of safety net for yourself. So always be aware, if you're in an abusive relationship, plan to get out, or plan if they kick you out. You don't want to be caught with nothing. And we'll hit our next video, which is how to protect yourself from credit fraud and identity theft. And I'll see you there.